Hi, thank you for joining us. Welcome to another edition of In the Metal, episode 33. Well, by now you may be aware that we have been, we talked to some of the amazing people, characters, figures in the world of independent watchmaking. And tonight we are pushing it into a slightly a different territory with this. We are joined tonight by a man who has been a visionary. He opened a watch shop in Rue Saint-Honoré in Paris in 1988 when big brands were still manufacturing quartz watches. This guy was thinking ahead, and there is nobody in this industry that he does not know and that has worked with him or inspired by him in one way or another. And so look, don't go away tonight. This is going to knock the ball out of the park. And so to get things going, I am going to cross the pond to Texas and to see if my man Dan Spitz is the former lead guitarist with Anthrax, don't forget, folks. So it's been a long time since he picked up his guitar. I wonder
What's up, my man Johnny boy?
what the hell is going on? Wow, Dan Spitz has got his axe out, man. What's the story with you?
We got a metal dude with us tonight, kind of. So, first of all, it's good to see you, Johnny. It really is.
Brilliant, man. It's been a lot of fun getting this one lined up. It's fantastic. We're so lucky that we get talking with these great watchmakers every single week. And but in the metal, Dan, as we talked ourselves, it's a diverse kind of thing. Yes, it's very, very dedicated to the world of independent watchmaking and what's going on there, and the guys like yourself who are working away on your old machinery to create these modern day masterpieces. But hey, we need somebody to sell them too, and
well, not just sell them, but we need someone who believes in us. And that was the hardest part at inception of independent watchmaking. There was people, like the Paul Gerbers and even the V&As and everyone in the beginning. But where were they going to sell their watches? Even before Instagram and all that kind of stuff. So there were a few people that really stepped out of the box and believed in where we were going with the vision of that a watch was not just for time. It really is true art of that person's humanness, one person's humanness. And our guest tonight is that person that stepped out and paved the way and helped pave the way for all of us. And it's really similar to music and, my kind of music that we helped create, where we needed managers who believed in that weird sounding music that was never heard before. Who was going to manage us when they just wanted, someone to sound like Ozzy or someone to sound like a pop star, like not just really fast music that wouldn't be on the radio and sell. So we had the same kind of dilemma back then. And it's incredible to have such an important figure here tonight.
Well, he is. Look, he's a very shy guy normally. He rarely, he's probably likes to stay away from the limelight. But I think tonight we should go direct to Paris and see if Monsieur Laurent Picciotto is in the house. Hello.
Yeah. That's freaking killer, bro.
Oh man, I can't believe this. So
In the Metal is the name of the channel, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good to see you, Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Bienvenue. Thank you for joining us, Laurent. It is a great pleasure and privilege to be joined by a guy who has done so much for independent watchmaking and independent watchmakers, and just that little boutique in Rue Saint-Honoré is it's a mecca for independent. For everybody knows it. That's one thing, you know, around the world, Dan, everybody knows of Chronopassion and of Laurent Picciotto, the visionary, genius, mover, shaker, groover, rocker,
rule breaker.
Rule breaker, absolutely.
You know, it was an improvisation at the beginning. It was really like a jam. We, you know, with my father, 33 years ago, he was really concerned about watches. So when I was 12, I walk around with him in different place. I remember, like in 74, going to see the Royal Oak 2 years after it came out. And of course, you know, there was another time. People was in tuxedo, Place Vendôme, a bullshit spirit. And I was a kid. It was impossible for me to touch nothing, to say something. And I was looking at the Royal Oak like, wow. And I cannot imagine that some years later I will be on the other side. But one day with my father, we went in Geneva. We walk around on the Rue du Rhône. And we went, you know, the probably the whole afternoon, every shops, asking questions. Most of the time we got like nonsense answer.
Yeah.
Because the people at that time, also 40 years ago, was really concerned about jewelry, and they do the watches because they have to do it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I say to my father, it's impossible, because finally this is really serious stuff, and there is people who are not concerned to sell them. So there is a problem. And later on, after different type of occupation, like in the bank, real estate, and cities industry at the right beginning of the cities, I said to my father, maybe we can do the shop that we wanted to find, you know, not concerned about the brands, but about the stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're nuts. You don't know nothing about a shop and about this industry, except the fact you follow everything and you're concerned. But and I started to go. I went to Switzerland to visit the different brands, and they were well polished, and they say, okay, oh, you want to open a shop? But I was, you know, like 27. So they say, okay, where will be your shop? I don't know. So the people were like, okay, this guy is funny, but okay, come back when you know.
Come back when you open the shop and you have a big budget to commit to 50 Omega watches per year you sell. You talk to us.
So I went back to Paris and I buy a shop on the Rue Saint-Honoré, which is still the same address that's 33 years ago.
Wow.
And I went back to see the people. So they were a little more concerned. And finally, at one moment, I met Gérald Jantat. And Jantat, at that time, my father was a direct customer of him. And Gerald was a very good seller, not always easy to follow. But he told me, but why do you want to be a multi-brands? I do 300 novelties every year. I'm one of a kind to do complicated pieces. I got repeater, perpetual calendar. I'm working on tourbillon, etc. And every time I do something, you can find 10, 20, 30 different pieces, like an octagonal one, a round one, a manual one, the automatic one, etc. So don't bother you with other brands. Say, oh, why not? And I start like that. So we did the first 2 years of Chronopassion as a monobrand store with Genta. The people who came in every day was 1.2. I spent the first 3 months with no sale.
Wow.
So I start to wonder, like, wow, it would be a big story.
Not a good
finally,
one.
one day, a guy came in and he said, "Oh, I love the brand." And of course, at that time, Genta was really confidential. It was, not the same story as we did in the year 2000 or later on. And it was just a few people concerned. And the guy bought 10 pieces. Oh, say, okay.
Wow.
I understand this is not like a regular shop with a regular brand, and I will be with not regular people.
Yeah.
But after 2 years, I realized that even if I got some people who are really collecting like crazy, because one day one Italian came to the shop. He came to the shop and he discussed with me the whole afternoon. And it was easy because, no traffic in that shop at that time. And the guy showed me pocket watches that he got in the pocket, maybe for, 10 millions. Every hour, say, oh, yes, I got this. And I make a special piece with this brand and this one. And he showed me some pieces that does not exist, like a pocket astrolabium from Ulysse Nardin. And I say, but it doesn't exist. They say, yes, there is just one piece for me. And the guy, at the end of the afternoon, we used to have 300 different Genta watches. And I say, you leave the place and you didn't find something? I say, I got more stock than you. And I was, and I was like, okay, maybe the guy is just kidding.
He tells stories.
But some years later, when I start to be a multi-brand, he called me because he knew all the information, because he was really concerned, like you are when you are on a subject. And he called me one morning and he said, okay, I know you received the first piece from that brand, the first piece of that one, and the first piece of that. I'm waiting you in the south of France tomorrow morning. He was living in an hotel at that time because he was waiting a construction more than 2 years or something, and he was living in the level of an hotel. And when I was in the room, he said, okay, I'm going to be dressed, take my shower. You can look in this lounge. There is all my watches. And you can open every drawer, everything. And the guy at that time got probably 1,500 watches.
Wow.
So I find the 400 Gentas So I was not kidding. And it was like, amazing. So he bought the piece that I came with. After he showed me the collection of cameras that he got, it was the same story.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the morning, he told me, okay, I'm sorry, I'm waiting somebody else. I don't have the time to show you my cars. And I say, what the fuck? Probably if you, as serious as you are for watches with your cars. And the guy told me, oh, it's worse. Because
it's a bad disease.
Some collection already done by other people. So I was, on the pavement with my check, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Laura, I think what you were seeing was the passion, right? That people have passion inside their soul, and not just to collect things because they're things. It's the story behind the things. Why did he want so many gentas? He must have really loved the story behind the man. That he knew what an impact he had on, let's call it, commercial watchmaking, right? But really, if you think about what Genta is, he's an independent who pushed his way into that corporate boardroom and somehow got his ideas through as an independent. So he's kind of an independent flowing through the big brands before we all broke out to have the independent power and execution that we can have nowadays. Back then, the affordability of the machines and all that, we couldn't do it back then. Every machine was $1 million, $2 million each, right? We couldn't even break out as independents. It was an impossibility. So he figured out a way to pave the way, and he must have just loved that story. And that's really fun.
The thing is, for me, there is two kind of people. There is the people who are receptive to objects,
mm-hmm.
whatever the subject, mm-hmm. and the people who don't care. And most of the time, when you got the accumulation of watches, guitar, motorbike, cars, whatever, at one moment, the people who are not concerned, they say, it's like losing your time. It's not life, whatever. But they just forget one thing. And this is exactly what we are doing tonight. That behind the objects, there is human being.
Mm-hmm.
And when you share the same attraction, the same passion with the people behind, the guy who do the watches, the watchmaker, the guitar maker, the car maker, etc.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk, and the channel in the metal is the real reflect of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A month,
mm-hmm.
a year. It's like it, when there is like an Harley Davidson meeting.
Mm-hmm.
People can talk about Harley Davidson 3 days with no break. Same story for the music. Same story for a lot of things. Of course, if it was just the object,
it wouldn't matter. No, like I don't know how many people were on when we first started the show, but we know you jam, we know your metal, we know about guitars. So what you're saying just kind of touched me here, because when we did the Anthrax reunion, I moved over to Paul Reed Smith guitars, right? But the head of his custom shop, who was really the brains of the handmade guitars for the artists, that goes in and feels the wood and listens to the wood to know for that artist what would be good, was a guy named Joe Nags, right? So he broke out and made his own company. And as you can see here, I got a Nags, right? I mean,
right.
It's just insanity, right? So that's that man's vision after working, say, at Paul Reed Smith and still having to adhere to Paul's visions. When he was ready, he broke out, and now he has his vision. Same as independent watchmaking, he's an independent guitar maker, which is possible nowadays because of CNC machines being somewhat affordable for them as well. So they can be a basement maker, let's say. So I play a Mags, it's just because it's the man behind the guitar. It's not just the guitar. His soul is in here. Like my soul is in what I produce as an independent watchmaker. It's my story. It's my pain. It's the pain of, getting a new machine and having it to come from all the other side of the world and having it to make here in one piece and half of it's broken and I got to make the rest of the parts myself. And then that machine helps me to guilloche the dial on my watch. It's all in there. That pain.
It's your blood.
It's my blood. So when the collector comes to pick up his timepiece, it's not about time. It's about meeting us, knowing us. That's independent watchmaking of today. That's where we are. That's the future. That's what I'm helping to boost a little bit for my country and get people started here to represent our country. And you represent that in taking it way back when and understanding what I just said way back when before anyone could explain that like me, like I'm doing right now. You knew it. You saw it. And that's a visionary, man. It's unbelievable. Plus, you play Anthrax songs on the guitar. Right? You're sitting there playing, man. You're sitting there
Wow.
Let's hit it, bro.
but honestly, I'm not good to. For metal, I'm not a good one.
Yeah, but you played it pretty good, man. That's a hard riff, even for me.
Yeah. So I will not say what I can say.
This is now officially in the metal. This episode is it,
Fantastic. Yeah, there are no rules to this one, guys.
Well, let's touch upon that. Let's just flip that, because we usually wait to ask people, what kind of music they listen to and all that kind of stuff. We're a little bit off the wall here. It's different than all other interviews or magazines and watchmaking. We don't wear suits and tie. I mean, that was your story from before, how you were a little boy or young man, let's say. You went into a store and they didn't treat you correctly because maybe you wanted to hold a Patek Philippe, right? We have those same stories in rock and roll. We had the stories of the drummer from Led Zeppelin, John Bonham, going in to buy his Rolls Royce, right? And he's standing in the showroom and they won't help him, right? So he finally, he's in his ripped up jeans. He's just finished drinking probably, and they finally get him to give him the keys, and he just starts the car in the showroom and just drives it right through the fucking glass walls, out into the fucking street, and smashes into another fucking Rolls Royce. And he says, how much? How much? Tell me how much. I want both cars, the one I smashed into and the one I was driving. Yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, wow.
That's rock and roll. And the same thing with the stories of Keith Moon throwing the TVs out the window. It's the same thing. It's not just being rock and roll. Somebody probably pissed him off, and treated him as, like he's the bum on the street, which is not. We just want to be ourselves. We want to wear our jeans and look normal. And everyone should be treated that way. You shouldn't judge people if they walk into a store and want to try on a timepiece.
It was exactly my target at the beginning, to say, even if it's raining outside, we open the door, the guy come in just to be dry, and we show him, even if he's not concerned, complicated pieces, crazy stuff, etc. And the guy spend some time and he say, but I'm not a buyer, and he say, but we don't care. It's cool. You just discover something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was really, the target to share with the people, and to let them discover that there is watches, but there is also horlogerie and crazy people that they do crazy stuff.
People.
And this is still the same story until today, that when we got some people that they know everything because they are concerned for years, we don't have to say a lot, you know, because they know, and we just have to try to surprise them, because this is the best feeling is to be astonished and to buy the craziest stuff that we can find. And when we got the people that they really don't know nothing, it's like they were in Disneyland for the first time. Well, sometimes they don't understand nothing and they say, but it's cool.
Right.
And sometimes they fall in love, and sometimes they run away.
But I think, don't you think now, where we are as independent watchmakers, now it's global, right? We have the Japanese, we have everybody aboard making masterpieces, that it's not so much that someone has to wear, you know, start when they get their first bonus, if they're trading stocks in the stock market, that they go out and buy the Rolex, and then they realize that, oh, wait a minute, that dude's got a Patek and I got to buy a Patek, and then, oh, that guy's got an Audemars, I got to get an Audemars. I think we've really brought upon us in this time that we're past that. Maybe he might buy a Rolex and realize it, and it's not going through all those and then all the way up the complication ladder and all that to find the independence and go, oh, wait a minute, this is the top, you know, because we really don't have to look at our watch for time anymore. It really is, it starts as being art, because when he walks into your store, right, or any store now, if there's an independent brand, it's not about, I need a watch, it's got to be, you know, every day I'm going to go out and I do this and I got to be able to smash it here and do this and I play tennis. It's more about representing that artist now, because your time is on your phone. Your time is all around you, which is quite different than my parents' generation or my grandparents' generation. Sure. So I think it opens up a really big door for all of us as independents to really express ourselves throughout our timepieces and not hold back when we're thinking, okay, what am I going to make? What is this watch going to do? Oh, wait a minute, I can't do that because it won't appeal across the board, you know, to the general population. We don't have to think like that anymore. We can actually make what's inside of us, what's coming through us, and it should come out of us. And that's what I think I'm seeing, and especially in this younger generation.
There is two points. You're right. Today, there is a lot of people, they want all the same watches. But they want them not for what it is, but for the value, because it's valuable.
Yes.
But honestly, for me, the best comparison is if I buy a painting, I really don't give a shit to things that it will be more expensive, less expensive, whatever. I love the painting. And I try to discuss with some people that they want all the same stuff. So I say, okay, buy stocks, buy your Rolex or your Patek, and see you. You know, when I did my auction of my collection 4 years ago with Aurel Bax in Hong Kong to restart from scratch.
That's right. You sold your entire collection.
Got like a big number of people. And we did some talk, some conversation or conference. And I told them that, okay, they're ready to spend 1, 2, 3 million on some pieces that they used to cost $150 years ago. But this is not because they bid that level that it will transform an industrial serial product in something of high watchmaking fairy. And we know the subject. You too. I mean, I got a 59 burst Gibson. It used to be $260. And I pay, of course, much more for that one. But the big difference is when I play it, I can see the difference. with some other guitar, even if I got a guitar company now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, and I try to explain these people that there is real high watchmaking level since a long time, with people who create amazing stuff, and maybe they will have to spend 50 or 100,000, whatever, and it will be vintage one day,
Yeah.
but it will concern the people who know,
Mm-hmm.
not all the people who want to buy Jeff Koons or I don't know what.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
getting at. Exactly. It's like 10 years ago, they used to have to climb that ladder that I talked about before, right? They had to show off to their friends, whatever they got, they're new to watchmaking. But now they can kind of jump forward to get to the point where I don't give a fuck of the guy's name that's, pardon my language, but I don't give a crap of the guy's name that's literally printed on the watch. I'm not there at the boardroom to show it off. It's all about, wow, when I look at it, what it does to me, and the story I have with that independent watchmaker. Maybe they flew to Japan to go out to dinner with Masahiro Kakuno, or maybe they're going to come here to Texas to hang out with me and go through my workshop and see how I'm helping the younger watchmakers in America who are going to get to use my machines because they can't afford them to make their first timepiece. And they love that story. That's what really appeals to them. And that does fold over into guitars. It folds over into art, right? They love the artist who made the painting. Not just the art. It's the artist's story. It's the story of the 59 Sunburst. Where forest did the wood come from, and why did it age like a Stradivarius violin for a guitar? And that 59 is the Stradivarius of guitars and will be for thousands of years. You own a Stradivarius if you lock it up for another 500 years. That's it. There's only so many of those. That would age differently. Those pickups sound like nothing else. It feels like nothing else. And they really, when they were making that Gibson guitar, they really took pride. There was an era of pride back then of what we were making. It wasn't it wasn't a Telecaster where it was Leo Fender, great guitar, real simple, keep it simple. We got to make money. It's 8 pieces, put it together. That wasn't a 59 burst. It was, let's find some kick-ass flame maple, but not just any flame maple. Let's carve it a certain way. The carve changes the tone, right? So yeah, well, I used to sell guitars on 48th Street in Manhattan. That's how I was making money to buy my own guitars.
Wow.
At Stuyvesant Music, which was the biggest resale store on that block. So I handled 59s all day. Back then they were like $8-9 grand. I should have took one, right? 8-9 grand. Yeah.
Thank goodness.
But what I'm saying is it all goes together, right, Laurent? It's guitar. We're trying to show it's guitars and art, or independent watchmaking, or watchmaking in general. It's the story, and we all have those stories. And into the future, a bunch of us, if someone does want to get into this because they see value in it or value added later, there's already been auctions where crazy prices for some of our stuff already. So we are making that impact. I just hope it doesn't fucking fall over into people thinking, oh wait, my watch auctioned off for that. Maybe I should make more and make a big brand, and we don't end up that way as a bunch in the end.
Well, this is always the big story between emotion or money, which is not the same. When we sit together with Richard Mill at the right beginning, he came to my shop, in my office, in the basement, and he said, okay, I want to talk with you 2 hours a week because I'm thinking to launch a brand, and I need your advice. Okay, so we start talking, and we were, on the phone with Renaud Papy. So Julio was one side, Fabrice was on the other side, and we were okay. We want something. No, we want do the metallization. of a part of the movement. We want the special screw. We want the titanium cover for the balance spring. And they were like, okay, we can do it. But at the end of the day, it will cost like a fortune. And we do what we, like kids. We were like, we don't care. And finally, we used to work like 40, 50. I mean, Richard was in my office every day. And one day I told him, I say, okay, but I got like 25 or 30 brands. I cannot spend the whole time with you. Of course, I will be a retailer for this project. And so he said, okay, if you want to be a shareholder, you got 20% of the share. Well, so I continued to work with him. And finally, after 5 or 6 years, I quit because it was, the association, the joint venture in general is always the same story. The real face of the guy you got with you is when this is a disaster or when this is like a big success. and after a while, I was not anymore concerned because the only point at one moment was the value. Was not anymore like at the beginning, trying to do something special, different, etc. So that's why with all the independence.
And that's why you guys at that time, so people understand what time frame we're talking about, you called Renault and Papé. I think people from this show should understand how influential they were back then as well, okay? Because remember, we're not just in Switzerland. I'm American, but I'm trained in Switzerland, so I try to let others understand what was behind the scenes back then, right, Laurent? So Renault and Papé, if you don't know who they are, they were like the first people who broke out and said, screw you, all you Swiss, we're going to make our own movements and sell them small quantities, custom movements, whatever it is, to what then wasn't even called independence yet. They were called small brands, right, Laurent?
Yeah.
Right? So yeah. he was a ball breaker and breaking the rules. And so when you wanted to reach out, or someone like Richard Mille wanted to reach out and say, how are we going to make a watch? Before Renault Papé, it was like impossible. You had to find a guy in a basement like me, right? That's the only way. But if you wanted to make 100, that wasn't possible. There was no in between. And that's how the Swiss squashed everybody. So Renault Papé was like the first independent, and I just want everyone to know how important he was to launching Richard Mille and so many others, right? So many other brands.
No, because the cool part, I mean, for a retailer who are more concerned just to order references, is to make something closer with the people. And this is always, with independent people that we can achieve that, which is what's the story with a lot of people that we work with. And sometimes it's totally unreasonable, of course, but it makes you feeling so much alive. One day I met Carole Forestier. She was working at Chronopapi. And I told her, I got an idea, but of course, I have no idea if it is something that we can achieve or realize. And my idea was to do a skeleton watch, and instead to, because the best watches generally, for me, are the watch who amaze some people who know everything, in the same time that he amaze people who know nothing.
Yeah.
Even if there is a different perception, but it's like, wow, And
Yeah.
my idea was to do a skeleton watch, and I wanted that the movement turn totally in 1 minute to get the carousel effect. But in 1 minute, it was like a big story. She quit Renaud Papy. I financed the R&D, and she spent like a year and a half, and she went back and she said, okay, I find a way to move the crown. We will do something with the bezel, the front bezel and the back bezel, but it won't turn in 1 minute because the forces and everything is like impossible to resolve. But it will turn in 1 hour. I say, okay, but it won't be demonstrative for the guy who don't know nothing. So I say, okay, it's no problem. And Carol is like a really strong woman. She said, okay, may I keep the 1 hour revolution for me? So of course, it was not my goal. She said, okay, I want to give you the money back. I said that there is no reason for that. But she did it. She really wants that. She present the Breguet contest. She win. Ludwig Osklin from Ulysse Nardin with Rolf Schneider call her. And after some time, the genèse of the freak was on. So she went to Ulysse Nardin working for the freak.
Wow.
And this is for me, even if it was not business, because it was really like human story, super cool. We tried to do something, and I'm always glad when I see her today, even if Richemont is another story, but when she was at the head of all the complicated districts of Richemont for Cartier, Piaget, etc. The idea still continue to be in the air. And sometimes I see some pieces and I say, oh, you're still searching something. Which is so cool.
Yeah, you're still trying to beat it. She probably has many sleepless nights that you don't even know about.
Yeah. Amazing talent, absolutely amazing talent. But like, okay, I'm going to try and steer this slightly because to keep on track about watches. We spoke earlier, Laurent, and you mentioned that there was one or two brands that were significant in the history of Chronopassion. Obviously, there was the Richard Mille story. I didn't think we were going to hear that story, to tell you the truth, but you're welcome to finish it if you like, because it's a good story. But also, there were three other brands. There was Martin Frey, Felix Baumgartner, for example, who you were great friends with. You were a great friend of Max Busser in the 1990s as well. So these were the pioneers of contemporary independent watchmaking. These were the guys that were thinking outside the box. There was nobody thinking like this, Dan, and I think Max actually, when he got the position at Harry Winston and initiated the Opus series, the Opus 5 was the collaboration with Max's input and the watchmaking genius of Baumgartner and Frey, and so this was an important piece as far as you're concerned, Laurent.
It's. I mean, this piece made me remember the story because, at the right beginning, Max sent me a message. He said, you have it was at that time before it make this one with Felix and Martin, and he said you have to see this people, and the brother of Felix came to the shop, and he told me, so it was much before this piece, of course, and he said, you know, we don't have the money, we're in the business for several years, but now we want to do another step, and he showed me some draw and some mapping of what they got in the head, and I say, wow, okay, we have to do we have to do it. I want these pieces exist. So what do you want? How can I help?
Yeah.
And the brother of Felix, you know, says, you know, we just need money. We don't want shareholder. Maybe we can do a subscription. Fantastic. And I say, and maybe if you want, I can call some retailer, that Simonian in California at that time, the Hourglass in Singapore, Pisa in Milano, whatever. I mean, all the guys who are ready to understand and to bet. So we give the money to them. They disappear for 2 years. And sometime when we talk each other, say, do you have some news? No. Okay, but you know, it's a long story. So finally, they came back one day and they say, and Felix said, okay, we did the first batch. It's cool. It was the 101, you know, and they were thinking that it's done.
Yeah.
Hey, no, I mean, the problem will start now.
Yeah.
You move the mountain, the commercial part will be another story. And I remember, you know, crazy discussion with Felix at that time that he said, and I told him that Uhrwerk is probably at the right beginning the worst name for a brand, that people Uhrwerk. Wow. And you recognize, you know, 20 years later, I'd say, oh yes, it was a really fucking name.
Yeah.
Used to start to be known. Anyway,
Totally.
we start that way, and I told him, okay, we have to build the trust. The design is super cool. The mechanism with the satellites is really amazing. So it will be fantastic, but it will take much more time that what he thinks. And when he introduced the piece that you show, you know, with the cubes, for Winston, I call Felix and I say, but are you nuts? This one have to be an Uhrwerk. You did it with Winston, and the idea is crazy, and it's a shame because when you will introduce that kind of piece in the collection, the wow effect will be already done with another name. And Felix look at me and he say, no, because you can see on this piece, the minutes hand is following the cubes. And I got the idea for my piece that the hands minute will come from the cubes to be extended to the minutes. So what the fuck? Are you serious? I say, yes. Are you sure you can do it? Yes. So I said, okay, fantastic. So you're totally right. But you know, I was really afraid that he did something and there is nothing, I mean, behind to do an evolution of that piece in the Winston style. But it was fantastic. You know, it was like...
that's the 101, isn't it? Yeah.
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 I lose the connection?
No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, okay. So it was really, you know, fantastic to see that Felix got the vision of steps like something. I mean, when somebody play chess, when you play with a guy like me, I don't even know what I would do the next step. It was already to be.
He had it planned. He's like, okay, I'll give Harry Winston this, but I already have in my drawer back here.
Yeah.
I'm good to go because that's my launch.
Sure.
Right?
And
you're freaking out going, dude, you idiot. What are you doing giving all your shit to this guy? What the hell is wrong with you?
What are you going to do?
And he's going,
and I was afraid that he cannot achieve what he just said. But of course, everything was under control.
Because you were afraid that the artist wouldn't get the full credit. That's a good human. You're a good human. You're an exemplary human. Because most businessmen, if they're just strictly businessmen and they're in watches for money, because there's plenty of them out there in the
what's in it for me?
What's in it for me in the non-independent world? Okay, if you are an independent or you're a collector or you're a young watchmaker, you always have to be careful in business. But there's a lot of very good people in what we do because we truly are artists, and we love to find people like you, who really believe. It's past the freaking money, What can I do to make something cooler, break a new barrier,
Sure.
whatever it is, and give this guy the credit that he deserves? Because we're so busy as artists, most of the time, making our creation, whatever God is giving us inside of us, it has to get out somehow. We're like inside, we're like a bubbling volcano. It's the same with music, right?
Right.
It's got to come out. It's like we don't sleep as musicians.
But
true artists. It bubbles. We wake up. I have a whole song in 8 seconds. I gotta grab the guitar, just like the riffs just start coming out. And then we as artists, you often hear those stories going way back. I mean, you can hear the stories from the 50s with Barry Gordy, stealing all the artists' songs. And don't worry, I got a Cadillac waiting for you out front. I got a house for you. It's no problem. Your money's in the bank and all those stories. Because we're so busy, and what we got to do is just getting this out of us. I don't know if you can understand that. You do, but people that are watching, we're like too busy. It's the same in watchmaking. We got to get it out. We got to get it out of us. And we're busy on our machines, or we're busy making riffs on our guitar, whatever it is. We're busy in the recording studio with these producers and whatever it is. But there's always the vultures.
Yeah.
Watch out for the vultures.
Oh, everywhere.
Watch out for the vultures.
Yeah, in an industry like this, Dan, in an industry like this, there's always people on the periphery who see an opportunity to get in and make a quick dollar.
Be careful because like the Barry Gordy stories, the house, the Cadillacs, all the money in the bank, when your next song doesn't hit it good, then you find out none of it was in your name.
Yeah, it was all on loan. It was all
on loan, and it's all gone. And you wake up that morning, and you're the blind. You're the blind artist. So we're very fortunate to have someone like you who sees past that. And I mean, everybody's got to make money. Right?
The cruel part of that is most of the people. It's cool story when people got memory.
Yeah.
Felix got the memory, even if at one memory go like a crash with his motorbike and it was a little difficult, but he still remember that we were there at the beginning. People like Max remember. And there is some brands that we help a lot for years. And the day they got the success, they just disappeared. They just opened a shop across the street. But this is life. So I stopped to be nervous about that, even if it's not pleasant. And this is always cool. Then today we still sell Yover well. We still sell Max. We got a conference call meeting for the novelty with Max the other day. And every time he say, I always remember that you be in and you subscribe and you sell the first HM1 a long time ago. When he came out with this piece the other day, he sold 11 pieces the first day, and it was his birthday, like Dan today. Happy birthday, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
And,
thank you.
and the day
Yeah.
after, he sold another. He
We're
sold
keeping
another,
that one.
he sold another 4 pieces the second day, and this morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, I was up. I look a crazy article in JQ with a poor guy who say this is the ugliest watch you can find on the market and with the price. So I send it to Max and I say, I'm really sorry, but you get like a real idiot who doesn't just want to buzz on that, but he got an audience. so he said, okay, I will take care about that guy. So it's with Max, this is the same story. You know, he always talk about that several times. The company could be break when he started his story with all the crazy story that he got with the HM1, and finally find McDonald who did all the assemblage of the piece because the people who were doing it before were not concerned anymore. And of course, when I start, I didn't know that the HM1 would be like that. And I told Max, you know, honestly, it's super cool, but it won't be easy to sell.
Right.
And Hervé was working at the Met Gallery in Geneva, was one of my guys at that time. And what we did with Hervé was a story with the people when they were buying something during the time, but we just prepare what they buy. Like, you know, the paper, the payment, the export forms, and the box, the warranty, whatever. Before we start to do that for 10 minutes, we just ask them to help us because we needed advice, we need a feeling. So we put the watch on the wrist of the customers, and we say, okay, when we finish to what you think about this crazy watch. And the first time we did it with a couple of Japanese people, when we went back with all the package, all sets, say, okay, what do you think about this MB&F, this new story? And the guy say, I think that I will keep it. And the guy bought it.
Wow.
The HM1.
And this is another. So you see, this is, you know, it's like open source that you mention, you know, quite often. Sharing, which is true also at the time of Anthrax, at the time of Run DMC and Megadeth and whatever, you know, when we did the stuff with Public Image, or when Aerosmith was the Run DMC stuff, etc. So it's really to be we don't have to be shy, just to be, you know, with a cool and real relationship about transmission of what is cool. Oh, you don't know? I will show you. Not
right, but Laurent, it is a very good analogy in music because independent watchmaking and the stories that you're telling should be known that you can do this in independent watchmaking. There doesn't need to be a boardroom of people in suits and ties going, no, this won't sell in this continent, here or there. In a million years, they wouldn't have taken a risk on the designs of Max's, right? It's so out of the box. It's like when I started, that type of music was so out of the box. You can't. It has to be somewhere from independence to someone who just breaks the rules, doesn't want to sign contracts, and does it their way. Because imagine, like when we decided Anthrax to join forces with Public Enemy and do the first ever heavy metal and rap song together and mix those two kinds of music. It had never been done before, right? So they told us it's career suicide, right? The people in the suits and ties, career suicide. Then we said, you know, fuck you, and we did it, and we recorded it. We recorded it, we stamped it. Same thing when we did our song called "I'm the Man," and they didn't want to release it Then even if after it was released and we forced it upon them because they had no contractual obligation to be able to stop it, we said, well, us and Public Enemy are going to go on tour together. And they said, you can't do that. They'll burn the arenas down, the two audiences that get together back then. You know, you each sell out Madison Square Garden, so not everyone's going to fit. First of all, where are you going to go, and who's going to insure the tour? And they couldn't get insurance. So they tried everything they did to try to stop you in the corporate world. But if you push through as an independent and you push through as a fighter, you can go, you know, fuck you, let me show you how it's done. And of course, you know, that tour, for instance, you know, it was sold worldwide, global, it was sold out just about every arena that we ever played.
Yeah,
so
some energy in that.
It's a jam. So there's no reason that independents should be working together and that open source kind of thing that me and Luc Monet from Arts Mechanics and Cyril Brevet Nodat, you know of him, I'm sure, from France. You know, we have our own escapement that was 3.5 years in development. We offer that up to other people as open source. That's how I think a lot of this should be, because that's the one part of a watch that we can't create in-house. You know, we have to keep people buy it, you know. So this enables someone to actually make that in-house, you know, as an independent and further along independent watchmaking. So I think a lot of that, more of that should be part of what we're doing. And that's your relation. That's how you were building those relationships way back when.
My cousin.
We're losing your connection.
My cousin was lead singer and guitarist for Fugazi, Guy Picciotto.
Okay.
I got only 3% left on my computer. Maybe I will move on the phone.
Sure. Transfer over to your phone.
Better. I don't have any more on the computer. So
that's
maybe on the iPad.
I can entertain.
Okay. Brilliant. Fantastic.
That's my Laurent.
That's a beautiful thing. Here, when we talk about guitars.
No, but you know, my cousin was a singer for Fugazi, Guy Picciotto, and guitar player. And when they start in Washington, D.C., you know, they of course, the music industry was different than today. And they said, but we want, you know, low price for the concert, low price for the record, especially with all the majors. It was not possible to go inside the head of the people of corporate stuff.
Yeah.
So finally, they did it in auto production themselves, and it was okay, you know. So finally, and they were, I mean, fully respected by a lot of people because they did their right to share and to be accessible, and it was fantastic. And when I discussed with my cousin sometime, I say, you know, it was cool to go to the target, even if it was, of course, a little difficult. But finally, they achieved it. You know, about guitars, and I told Johnny just before you came that it was funny because, you know, watchmaking is a passion, but I'm not a watchmaker. And guitars is also a big passion for me. And I'm not a guitar maker. But 10 years ago, I met some young people that they wish to start the guitar maker company in the center of France. And they are near Vichy. And they were 20 years old. I got already maybe 100 guitars at the time. And I can feel that they got a real high level of knowledge, a good style, and and that part won't be finished. So I start to buy guitars from them, and enjoying, and we start to meet each other quite often. And one day, because it was not the type of discussion that we had, the business start to be, the discussion, and they say, "Wow, you're talking about the business, but the business is like very difficult. But we do it because we have this spirit. We're full of guitar blood everywhere. But we just hit sometimes, not every day. It's like really difficult."
Mm-hmm.
And they say, "But if we are talking about that, could you help us?" I say, "No, because I know that independent guitar maker or other profession, when you are independent and you go really to target, I mean, for the guitar, I cannot help you because I know a lot of other independent guitar maker who got like a lot of problems. But if we come with something which is innovation, I will be part of the gang." You say, "Okay, but Leo Fender and Les Paul, they create the father of the beginning. They did right at the beginning, and since all the people start to do what they did, but what kind of innovation we can do?" And I say, if we are thinking about watchmaking and thinking about the James Bond car, we can do probably something with no apps, no battery, no iPhone, nada, just mechanical. I'm not sure that it's gonna work, but maybe it's interesting to see if we can find a way. So we built an engine because I want some pickups that you can change live, direct at the middle of a song. So we start at the beginning, of course, in the research and development process. It was like 3 years of the story, and finally we did a big engine in alloy, and we resolved all the problem that we went through, and finally it worked. And I told Johnny, finally it's quite rare to get like a guitar hero and a rock star will become a watchmaker. And finally, you must be the one to be the inventor of that.
Okay.
Because it's the two competence to achieve that kind of stuff.
Well,
and it was really fun.
Yeah, I'm glad that I used to design guitars with Grover Jackson when he started in his garage. That was part of thrash metal. Is we didn't have the amplifiers or the guitars to create the sound that was in our head. The guitars that had to have a different feel. We played faster than anybody else and very intricate. So we had to work with people like Grover and Jim Marshall for amplifiers to invent stuff. So we thought it up. We drew it out on paper like watchmakers do still, right? Literally back then, there was no computers, right? And we would send it to Grover and I would send it back, and we want to, do a compound radius on the fretboard. And he was like, "What the fuck is that?" And we evolved from Charvel into Jackson. We wanted neck through bodies. It had to withstand the road, and just a lot of things that were different. The tone woods. I mean, I made so many first guitars with Grover. I made him go in the forest to find Carina wood, because when I used to sell guitars on 48th Street, I'd always look across the fucking street, and Manny's was across the street from Stuyvesant, and I would see that 58 Flying V made out of Carina wood hanging in the window for stupid amounts of money back then. And so I went to Grover one day. I said, "I want something made out of Carina." He said, "Spitz, you're an idiot." He said, "That's a green, moldy shit wood." I said, "I don't care, man. I want it. Go get it." He rented a U-Haul trailer, hooked it up to his car. This is how much he loved building guitars. And he went into the forest and he paid a guy for a certain amount of trees, and he cut down the Carina wood, and that's how the first Jackson Carina guitar was made. But that's the collaboration. I mean, I'd love to do something because it would be great for watchmaking between us too. That'd be really killer. Absolutely, man.
That would be
and of course,
rock and roll heaven.
when my timepiece is finally out, and I am, my timepiece is the first actual timepiece ever in watchmaking that is made by and delivered to be a piece of memorabilia the second you buy it. It's the only one. Like, I'm the only heavy metal dude with Grammys and stuff to produce a piece.
Sure.
It's a piece of memorabilia. It's the first few, I'm sure. I mean, it's going to end up hanging in the Hard Rock Cafe next to my guitars, which is really cool. You know? That's really fucking cool. Because then
I'm one of the only retailers to own a guitar company.
You sure? Yeah. Probably the only one. I tell you what.
We're the only.
So let's show you if we see something. I don't know. I will try to show you a little closer what we are talking about. So I don't know about the camera. Yeah. Okay. So it will be quite tricky, but
it's okay. I have images as well, Laurent. So
yeah, but you know, which is interesting about the Gyrock is really something across, you know, the watchmaking and the guitar, because of course it's coming with different pickup, you know, on the side, but the real story is you got the guitar and
that's an amazing,
as I told you, so you
amazing
two
thing.
Strange
switches.
Yeah, the two strange switches over there. And when we were in Nashville in the NAMM 2 years ago to launch the product, of course, the people they come closer and they look at this and they say, what's the fuck it is? And when they realize that if we just push them, it would change. Got some.
That's okay. Yeah, we're good. I think
So they can see that we can.
Holy shit!
So you can separately change 3 times of pickups. So you got 6 pickups inside, and at the middle of the song you change. So you can go from single
coil, a humbucker, a soapbox,
lipstick to whatever. And if you go in a session recording in a studio, and we saw one in I don't know if you know the guy Justin Johnson, who's doing country and really picking stuff. He bought one of these the other day because he say, you know, it is a solution for me. And Richard Fortus from Guns N' Roses also, he offer us like a video promotion with that, because you go to the studio with some other pickups in your gig bag, and you open the back, you got the pickup, and you just have to
you click
this one, you take another one,
you put it. I see. So the pickups are on. They're on sub mounts. The pickups are on sub mounts and wired to that sub mount, and then they click in and make connection. That's killer, dude. That's the ultimate studio guitar for sure. You can just flip right through. Wow.
So we went to see Seymour Duncan in Santa Barbara, and we got a meeting that we show how it works, and we need to see if we can do real humbuckers, etc. And we spent like, you know, the whole day in the meeting room, and Seymour was like, I didn't think about that. and all the engine, you know, the part is under this cover.
Okay.
So we we actually produce with the CNC all the engine. Yes.
Wow, I've never seen that before. That's freaking killer, dude.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And when we went to the NAMM in Nashville, the engineer from Gibson was, on our booth all day long, looking around. And finally, the new CEO come to see us, and he say, "Oh, it's really something." And he say, I think in the situation of the guitar industry, the guy who would take the license of that would be the guy, And so actually, we are preparing a Les Paul just that it will understand a little deeper with the corporate,
Right.
stuff.
Wow.
But the situation of the industry is a little difficult actually, and plus the COVID, this is another story. But we had a meeting with Billy Gibbons, so
yeah,
and he said, okay.
Okay.
Yep. We lost you, Laurent.
Yeah, we just
really
lost you. There you're back.
And problem, no?
Yeah, there's a little break in the connection, Laurent. And if you want to close out and try again, come back in again, see if get a better connection. That's a shame because that's just
that's wild pickups. That's like something you lay in bed and like you got a wacky idea and then bring it to life.
Area because I think.
There we go. The man is back.
The connection is difficult.
Yeah.
And Billy, when he saw that, he said, "Okay, I want the same guitar, but I want it with a 2.5 kilo weight." So we did a Billy Bow with 3 pickups instead of 6. Just finished to produce them, but at the moment we cannot go to the USA, so it's a shame because it was waiting to see the result of that.
Yeah, he's always on top of really, really killer innovations.
Yeah.
Lost him again.
Yeah. It's he was saying that Billy Gibbons really loved the idea, and just he needed to lose a bit of weight off the.
I don't have any more sound.
You have. Can you hear us? No.
Where's the phone?
Right, I get it. Right. So.
Check 1 2. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us, Laurent?
Check.
Can you hear us? No side. No. Down.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
You got it? Yeah. Cool.
No more battery.
That's it. Man, that's okay. Yeah, mechanical don't let you down the way electronics do. So
I mean, it's always a mess.
That's just an incredible guitar, and you know what I think? I think being that it's just me and you in this entire watchmaking industry with similar collisions, let's say, we certainly should get together and do something once this pandemic is over, for sure. Absolutely, yeah. We should. I mean, do a jam in your store. I don't know. Let's do something because we're the only ones that can speak this language, I think, and create a little turmoil.
I want to be at that without a doubt. Absolutely, man.
Yeah, I'll bring over one of my pieces and we'll have some fun and we'll jam with your guitars.
Sure.
Man,
I show when we were testing the technique. I show Johnny, but I got some hard time with this camera.
That's okay.
I don't know.
Where do you see this down?
Well,
so you can still hear us, Laurent? Yeah.
Holy shit! Wow, man.
That's Billy Gibbons.
If you want a Billy Gibbons,
that's a Billy Bow.
One of the coolest one at my opinion. This one, was the custom shop who did it for him after a tequila night.
Wow.
So there is
Charbel.
guitar like everywhere.
Wow.
With some vintage, but also actual independent people from different country, and because I was thinking also probably when I was young that when you buy a new guitar you play more. But if I buy a lot, normally I will be better. but the problem is this is not true.
Well, what is true is new guitars help inspire us to create new music. It's a new feeling.
Because a new guitar give you another road to go another way.
Yeah, every single guitar feels different and sounds different. I used to have Grover make me 3 guitars at a time, out of all the same wood, and they would show up on tour wherever I was. And there's always one. They never sound the same. It's the same tree. It's the same guy building them. It's the same everything. And they're unique to themselves. And once in a while you find one that's just yours and it fits you like a glove. But getting a new one inspires you. It's the same in watchmaking, who are the collectors or creators like myself. We're always make one-time piece. And even as we're making that first one, like I am now, I'm already have the design or the in my mind of what the next evolution or the next piece of that puzzle is. We're human. We like to create.
And which is the same story. With some people, they say to me, "Okay, I got the same watch since ever." So okay, it's cool, but it's so cool when you take another one because you feel different, and you come to. It's like if you. Some people want to be, with the same clothes the whole life. Some people are, all black or with the jean and the white t-shirt for the whole life. Okay, why not? But it's so cool to feel, different emotion, changing, your guitars, your watch, and you enjoy, and you feel your spirit is a little different every time. This morning. We were talking about specialties and crazy stuff, and I was wearing this
Angelus.
and this is and this piece in the shop is always funny because the guy say, "But what is it? You got something, but I don't care about the time, but if you really want it, you got it. That's it."
Just peeking out of the sleeve.
This is really something, so weird. But the expression of the escapement to the tourbillon escapement over there is really. I really feel that when you got this like this, just
creeping out of the cuff,
yeah, it's enough. It's so, it's hypnotic.
Yeah.
And you don't need something else.
It is soul food, Laurent. Yeah. Look at that there. It doesn't only power the watch, it also powers the person. It's
right.
To look at that is spectacular, isn't it? Hey, we'll have to get Angelus on someday. And that was Sebastien Chamonnier, wasn't it? Was responsible.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll have to get talking to Sebastian. I think he's working for a bigger company now. But
you know what we should all do? We should all take a booth at the next NAMM after the pandemic.
Right.
That would be cool. Like together, with my timepiece, your guitars,
Well, the problem now is very difficult to do plans with all that shit. But we received some days ago that the Nashville NAMM seems to be on. So we reserve the booth anyway. But because honestly, even if it is not a cool subject, all the events, I think we are in a big trap for years. I really think, because the time that all the country will be at the same level with the vaccination and with the capacity to be safe, etc. I mean, before traveling, I honestly think that we have to wait quite a long time, and which is also for us like a big trouble for the retail, because in Chronopassion we sell like 85% to the people who come through Paris, and at the moment in Paris it's like
it's a ghost town,
empty. I mean, as a lot of different towns, except some places in the world, they just don't care. They say, okay, we'll see. And the result is sometimes not very far from what we do in France, in Europe, or some other country.
Well,
but so it's really difficult to do a projection. So actually, we have a lot of projects with special pieces, special stuff that we work on it for 1-2 years with different people. We always try, to find the emotion, which is really the key. But with all that stuff, it's like difficult, because we got the feeling that we are alone, just on the side doing stuff and with just a few people. Well, the big difference than before, it's the internet work, which is another story. Than internet does not exist at that time. I mean, did not exist 30 years ago, so it was another story. But we have a lot of people that they say, okay, but we want to come, we want to be in the shop, we want to touch, because it's always difficult. We're all able to buy pictures on the web, but sometimes, and especially for the guitars, you want to play with it, the watch, you want to wear it to see what is the volume, what is the feeling, the touch, the emotion, the spirit, etc. So this COVID is really a fucking trap. But
I think we got through it all right for the first round of lockdowns and things like that. I honestly think this time it is. Usually I am always, we'll make the best of it. And this time I'm pissed off. And last weekend I was sitting here, guys, and I was just thinking how much I miss the buzz of a live band. It doesn't have to be in a big arena or a big hall. Just going to a local bar and seeing a kick-ass little bar band banging out some fucking Lynyrd Skynyrd or Georgia Satellites or something like that there. And I miss that, because I am the kind of person who I would go to a bar on my own.
We are human.
Yeah,
we need that.
Well, right now,
in a few days, we will have the announce in France of probably the third lockdown.
Marco. Well, what I'm thinking right now is if there was no COVID, I'd probably have Laurent setting up like 6 stacks of Marshall amps in his store just so I could shake all the watches out of the fucking showcases. I'll be on the next plane over there. Soon as my first watch is done, I just fly over there and plug right in and just demolish his store with my guitar. Well, his guitar. We'll be flipping pickups with his guitar. We'll show the freaking watch world who we are.
You wouldn't need a watch winder, would you? That day.
No, we're gonna definitely have some fun in the future.
That's definitely long.
Eventually, this will end, and we will come out of the closet. Kind of representative of one of the songs I co-wrote. Skeletons in the Closet. So we'll get out of that closet, and we're definitely going to cause some turmoil for sure.
Yeah, we've got to look after ourselves and look after each other and wear a fucking mask and just flipping try and defeat this thing. And it doesn't suit anybody. But what can we do? And it'd be wonderful to see Paris coming to life again, and for tourism and for people moving around, and it's. Yeah,
but
what was it? Hey, it's the one thing that everybody's talking about, and I try, Dan and I to talk about different things because everybody knows what it is. But man, it's
Last,
hard.
I agree, but you know, last Christmas we have we spent 3 weeks in Saint Barth in the Caribbean,
Yeah,
and because we can go to the restaurant, we can go everywhere, going on the beach, and people were like, no problem. We got really the feeling to be in the movie Back to the Future, you know. And
wow.
I think, how come? How come? You know, it makes me remember, you know, when my military service, when I was young, stopped. And I was, you know, so amazed. And this is the only benefit of that. You know, so amazed when I went, you know, to the guy to buy my bread. And it was fresh bread. And I was almost, you know, putting my knees on the floor of the guy who sold the bread, because it was like, wow.
Yeah.
But after a year, I think this is enough.
Yeah.
And that's the point, and that's the problem at the moment.
Yeah.
Because
And
we need some more time.
That's a good analogy. It's the same thing when I used to be on the road all the time. You'd be on the bus for one continent for 3.5 months, you know, and you can't wait to get home and have whatever is American that you used to, or your mother's cooking, or whatever it may be, and you feel like, oh God, thank God. All I wanted was that soup with the egg noodles, you know, like that, they didn't have pretzels over here, you know, or whatever it may be, and it is that kind of feeling. I think.
This is the only benefit of that stuff, is that we just need to see some friends, share a beer, going to eat, have a party, kiss each other, and what else?
Yeah. Absolutely.
But you know, just on the subject of this, because we have mentioned this before, but do you not think that the independent watchmaking has done pretty well during the time of lockdown? Because there are less. Some of them, yes, yes, and some of them.
I mean, the when Max Busser and Moser, for example, did the collaboration with the piece, with the identity of each other's, they did 75 pieces MB&F with the view of Moser, and 75 pieces Moser with the view of MB&F.
Yeah.
And it was just after the first lockdown that we had in Europe. And they say, okay, this is maybe crazy. All the fair are canceled, but we are ready. So let's launch it. So Max and Edouard called me and they say, okay, we will do it next week, or I don't know. And I say, you know, why not? Because there is not a lot of people who are risky enough to do something. The two pieces are gorgeous, amazing.
Yeah.
We'll see, you know. And it was the craziest, the craziest sale, because the 150 pieces was sold out after 10 or 12 days. We never saw that before. And finally, we realized that a lot of people was locked down, so they got the time. They look at what's going on the subject, if they are receptive to that. And the pieces was cool, very interesting. It works.
Yeah.
And Moser did a big step this year, probably because of that, not only because they did also the streamliner, and it was also, I mean, today we got a meeting yesterday, and they are totally late in production because of the COVID, but they're late also because of the demand. The demand is tremendous on the chrono, on the simple one,
the center seconds.
So I agree, and most of, even the big brands, you know, they were a little low in the turnover this year. Even the one you mentioned, you know, the valuable one that all the people want the same watch. Some of them were okay, but something like less 15% of activity.
Yeah.
Mother did plus 12% this year, which is fantastic for a brand, you know, is still fresh and recent. And they discovered that they don't have to explain every time what is or who is Mother. So we can feel. Well, of course, this is it. It doesn't consider all the independent, but MB&F was in the team. Mother, Urwerk, we did well too, and people like Ressence did very well. So yeah, the T-Rex was a good reception, and I just discovered, you know, before the chat, that Urwerk is launching an atomic clock like the one, you know, they did when they did the sympathetic clock.
Yeah.
So now they did like a little series, but I just saw a post before we start that they will do a little series of only the atomic clock, which is like a big computer, but which is another story. But and that I was like, what? Well, they mentioned it. They mentioned that they will do it some month ago, but I didn't realize that the launch will be now. So no, it means that this is always there is no bad time, but the big difference is if this is not really a question of moment. This is a question of what you bring to the story, to the cause. I mean, if the piece is fantastic, the sale will be okay, even if it is like a very difficult context. If it is a bad piece, even in the better context, okay, it will stay a bad piece. I mean, a non-interesting one. So, my choice in the shop was always to say, okay, I want to carry stuff that if they bring something to the story. So this is not really a question of brands, and which is a little at the opposite of what is the world today, as we discussed before. You know, we are in the world now. This is brands everywhere. Before, in the past, you remember you're going to America, you find stuff that you cannot find at home.
Correct.
Today, it's a global village.
Global,
There is still independent people who do stuff. So there is some address. When I go to Brooklyn, I can find a guy who would do some vintage leather jacket or some crazy stuff, or a guy who's doing motorcycle, very weird and interesting. But this is less and less because the economic situation is the result also of something. It means a long time ago, retailers, and it was true for watches, jewelry, but it was true for clothes, for a lot of, for everything. In the past, the brand was thinking that selling is something absolutely insane. So they don't want to be in charge of that. So they want some people who are insane enough to do the job. And at one moment, it started to be with the monobrand store, everyone all the big actors, the big brands start to play the monopoly on the whole planet. So they want bigger than the neighbor. They want to be in every town in the world with the same stuff. And we don't talk anymore about luxury. We're talking about expensive stuff, which is not the same story, because in my opinion, luxury is a rarity first. And this is also much more in the hand of independent people, because they can do it with no marketing if they want. With the big company, you need like a tremendous marketing, and marketing people today are the king and the queens of the company. Sometimes I have big arguments with some institutional brand, and I say, I think we can do this, we can do that with the CEO. And the CEO say, oh no, I'm sorry, our Instagram director do not agree. I say, okay, so he's in charge of the company, and that's the point. And finally,
that's that suit and tie shit. I can't deal with that shit.
Yeah.
And I start to play the game at the right beginning. You know, when AP in 1996 they come to see me. Benamias was already there when he was a young guy with at that time Steve Urquhart, and they come to see me and they say, okay, we do good business with AP, and we think to open a shop with you. So okay. So we fixed the rules. We opened the shop, and the shop was empty. So I have to explain them that if a shop with the name of the brand over the door is their name, we need some products a little more than a regular one. They took maybe 2 years to understand that. They don't have the idea what is the final customer, what he needs, what he wants to see, what the plus, what the bonus could be. But finally, like all the other brands, they learn. And when they got the knowledge, they opened themselves. And they quit the whole network and they open only shops from them.
It's the corporate mentality. I met with Benny Moss when I was in Switzerland after Wolstep for a while, and I told him the same thing. This is way back when. I said, you know, I'm the only metal dude watchmaker. You know, perhaps we should do something that's a little bit different. You know, for the watch world, it would be a cool collision to have like an artist with you making a timepiece, and I'm the one that's kind of maybe helping, not just a designer. And they talked about it for about 8 seconds, but it was still that corporate mindset. And then a few years later, I saw them break down and start to work with hip hop artists, just make a special run of 10. And I was like, okay, it took that freaking long.
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever that was, for them to realize what I was saying. Like, you can't just be a stagnant old school company from the 60s now. Everything's changing, right? You got to act quickly. You got to be on Instagram. You got to be just like guitar companies are. Plenty of people make great guitars, but you got to strap one on me. If I'm playing to 200,000 people one night and 25,000 people a night every night, right? You got to make a guitar for me that fits me, and I'll wear it. Right, I'll play it because you know I love it, and that camaraderie with the company. You have to do that in watchmaking, even at that level of corporate watchmaking, and that definitely needs to be done. Not just give someone a watch. And
I think is a common thread that connects the successful independent brands and some of the larger brands too, and that is communication. It's the way they communicate with their audience. As Laurent said, when AP set up that store in Paris with him, they didn't understand their customers. They didn't know what the customers wanted. They just put a product on the shelf and said,
but you know, everyone is able to learn. And finally, they learn their own way. Finally, we did a settlement at the end, and honestly, they would be really cool, really fair, and François, that I know since the right first day that he came in this industry, was really a real gentleman, you know. So they give me a check and say, okay, it's the way it is.
Good.
Well, but most of the people they just receive a letter and bye bye. So I think we have really to do, I mean, our own way. But this is true that the world actually is, you know, the lead is with the brands for most of the people. They just want, you know, you got the same cars front of the hotel, you got all the same cars in the world, you know. So this is why most of our customers, they got a real, a real personality. They don't care. They just learn. They do the initiatic learning of what they like. Of course, at the beginning, you don't buy the same stuff that you will buy 5 years later or 10 years later, because you start to know a lot of people, to look on the web, to read the magazine, to go to the fair, etc. And you're and this is not a question of truth. This is the question of the feeling that you be attracted by some mechanism, some shape, some design, and you grow your initiative way. And at one moment, this is of course much less people, because most of the people just follow, the advertising and the social brands that were. And this is funny, because when you mention Dan at the beginning of the discussion, that the people are looking always for the same brand and the same reference sometimes about and because it's valuable. At the end of the day, it's quite funny, because when you see the parking from the hotel, you got most of the time the same Bentley, the same Porsche, the same Ferrari, whatever. And if you come with a Monks Mayer's buggy, Dunn buggy from the 60s, all the people come to see you, because you don't see a lot of that. And I got one, and every time it's like, whoa. Okay. With the watches, this is the same story. If you go like in a trendy spot, like in Saint Barth, or some place in America, and some place in Asia, whatever, you go to a party when you used to have party, and you look what is the watch on the wrist. You got 4 brands, the same reference, so you got like 100 of this, 100 of that, 50 of that, and another 100 of that. And if you come with an independent pieces like the Angelus, or MB&F, or Urberg, or Ressence, or Danny Spitz, at one moment, all the people start to come on you. Oh, wow, it's cool. It's super. Okay, but you got like crazy way to achieve to buy your stuff. You got all the same stuff. You say it's a rarity, but finally tonight it's not rare, because everyone got the same. Not even talking about what it costs, because this is at one moment totally weird. But where is your personality? What is your mind? You just discovered that tonight, finally. You are not really concerned about watches. You're concerned about brands, which is totally another story.
But you know what? It really does bring us back to the beginning of the conversation, and a lot of the conversations that me and Johnny have with our guests that's what this show is about: is getting behind the minds of people like you, to show those people at the party that there is something called independent watchmaking, and there are artists that create micro-mechanical art in their homes, in Japan, in Australia, in Texas. They're here. Did you know about them? And that's when they look at your wrist and go, holy shit, what the fuck is that? Right?
Yeah.
And then they realize, and they look at his watch, and he says, it's the same Patek as the other guy. They said it was a special edition, but all they did was change the color of the dial. It's the same watch as 1953, right? But now they really discovered there's artists out there, and that's what I view as modern independent watchmaking is, and where it's going in the future. And even pandemics can't stop us, because we don't have that huge overhead. We don't have 200 employees that have to wear masks. We can just keep continuing doing what we do, innovating, whatever it may be. You can still come and visit the shop as long as, I don't know, you get your COVID shot. I don't know what the hell, but you can still come. You're only coming with your wife or whatever it is. We still roll on. We always will roll on. It's the same as independent music, right? When we started our music, no record label would sign us. No record label would sign Metallica. We had the same manager. He held both cassettes in his hands for 2.5 freaking years, going to every label. And they just said it sounded like, the toilet being flushed. It's just crap. Get the hell out of my office. So he mortgaged his house and started his own independent record company and said, screw you, you suit and tie douchebag. We're going to put the two of you bands in a van and start playing. And that's independent music, and there's no difference. I'm the only one probably here that can speak this truth because I lived it, right? There's no difference from that to the exact same thing as what independent watchmaking is now. You're fighting against the suit and tie, trying to show people your way. Your way is the way. It's your truth. It's what you sleep at night, what you wake up dreaming. And that's what you get to your machines in the morning and start to create. And no one can tell you what to do. And it's the same exact thing.
Yeah,
that's why I do what I do. Because I feel that freedom here. I can never.
No, but this is the freedom.
Look, I did that. I headed up all the Chopard complications for 2 continents, right? I'm their instructor. I'm the guy creating all the courses to teach all the watchmakers. That's not my gig, right? It's just not. It was great knowledge. I get to touch all the crazy things, and I gained a lot of knowledge that way for teaching and caring for other people. But that's not my true identity. I was born to break the rules. You know, I'm only going to fit in for so long. You know?
There you go. And that's the independent watches are really they are rule breakers, because they're people who couldn't. I always reckon, Laurent, that a lot of the watches that are created by our independent watchmakers would never ever get signed off at board level if they were. Can
you imagine Masahiro Kikuno in Japan explaining to the boardroom that he's going to hold a jar of sand and water and squeeze it to make the image of what he wants on the bridges, like they did centuries ago?
Yeah.
How long would that board meeting last, right? Yes, it's just that. But that's his art. He's a painter. He's just painting with micromechanics. Yeah. And that's what I do.
And I think the customers, in the end of the day, also the people who appreciate the independent watchmaking, they are individualistic.
But if those same people that you were talking about in that big room where they're all wearing the same 3 brands would travel to see his place and see what he does, that's like them traveling back in time to see a famous painter painting, right? And having that ability to take one. That's what that has to be shown to the world about the true independents, who are 1 or 2 people, really working away at it.
Yeah.
No, but I think which is a little weird is today we got tools, especially the web, that you can discover a lot of people, everywhere in the world, making crazy stuff, and just send them text, be in contact with each other. One day you go to the place, and finally, in the same time, you got the feeling that there is a lot of people that the culture, the curiosity, and the curiosity for me is really like an engine. The culture is going down, which is a little weird, because we got the tools to be more deep with the curiosity to find people who do weird things and art in different domain.
Yeah.
And in the same way, we got a little sometimes the feeling that we're going on the opposite way. That because there is like a mass interest, a mass focus on stuff. We can see. Well, the tech also is something very, very tough, because the tech destroy a lot of industries. Because this is the evolution, When I see some people who used to buy pieces like the Grebel Forcé or whatever, and today when I meet them and they got the Apple Watch on the wrist, and I say, I can understand that the need or the function that you want, but it's really weird that the interest disappear. In the music business, we can see in the NAM every year, the real instruments start to be smaller booths, because everyone is doing music with a computer. Some years ago, we were, of course, it used to be impossible to think that one day Kodak will disappear. But everyone is, don't need a camera anymore. So it's just some geek. So it's this whole mix is on one hand quite interesting because you can discover a lot, met more than before, because when you want to study something in the past when internet was not on, it was another story, because you have to talk with people, go to the library and see if there is somebody who knows this guy was doing something.
Old school.
Yeah.
And, so I used to think a long time ago that when the internet started, I was thinking that it will build more up the level, and finally, a lot of people just bullshit with that.
Well, we gave everybody, their 15 minutes of fame, only to find out there really isn't any talent. I mean, when I grew up, you had to have fucking talent. You had to go in a recording studio. It was $2,500 a day. You had to hire producers, people to run the big giant mixing boards, the tape machines. You had to have engineers who went to school. That was their profession, right? They got a certain percentage of your album sales because they had a track record. It was, you had to perform. You had to, okay, here's take one. If you're at take three, you're fired. You're replaced. Now, you can go in Pro Tools and fix this. The guy don't even know how to play. He doesn't even know how to play. That's it. It's total cheating, back then. That's what made my music and the creation of thrash metal so important to so many people who were proficient musicians themselves or learning, was we actually played some of the most insane, hardest things that a human could play at very fast speed and intricacy. And in the studio, you have to double it and triple it and do 4 takes on top of each other, layering it. So that's what really made us and that music very famous, was how the hell did they do that? There's no cheating involved. You can't. You had to play it, right? That's what separated us. And everyone said, well, we got to go see him live. It can't be real. And then they would see us live and go, holy shit, it's better live. But that was because they couldn't capture that low-end guitar back in the day. They didn't even know how to do that. I mean, we hired Eddie Kramer, the producer of all the Led Zeppelin albums, Hendrix, the whole Hendrix catalog. I mean, everybody. And he couldn't figure out how to make the guitars and the bass fit in, because we wanted so much bass in our guitars. It had never been done. And we thought we picked the only guy in the world that could figure it out, right? It's just him and Jimmy Page creating all that music back then, innovating. And they couldn't even figure it out. So innovation, it brings along innovation, which means we had to make guitars that were different. We had to sit with Jim Marshall at Marshall Amps and make amps that he never invented before. And I would sit there soldering with him to show him what we want. A Mesa Boogie amplifier is the same thing. It's the same thing in watchmaking. We're creating and we're trying to break new barriers in independent watchmaking. We have
always.
This is what we do.
Always.
MB&F, you told the story, Laurent. He created that, and everyone was like, "No one's gonna buy this. It's a fucking spaceship."
Yeah. It turns out people wanted spaceships.
It was also very good. Max did with that kind of because for me, Max is not really a brand. It's more like a label. The idea really to be with different watchmaker and to start the research and to find a way to do something really interesting, the perpetual calendar that he did was, McDonald was so cool.
Yeah, we had him
of course. Kari is also, Butilainen is also amazing for the finishing and everything. But this is really for the people who will be concerned. One day, Max told me that if one day MB&F start to be, and maybe it will, valuable, it will be super cool as a business, but it will be much less fun with the people who do not really understand what we are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we were looking at your piece at the escapement with my watchmaker the other day, and trying to understand about the escapement with no lubrication coming from the past, with the big balance wheel, etc. And we spent like, you know, 2 hours to look on your website and discuss, etc. But you know, there is just a few people who are concerned. You know, most of the people they come in the shop and they ask for the brands we don't have. And we say, well, no, we don't know them, what it is. Are you joking? You know, it's like worldwide, the knowledge is worldwide brands and very poor. Okay. And we start to try. I mean, we tried sometimes with people who don't know what we do, and to say, okay, do you want to discover that there is some other people who do some other things? But of course, and this is why I was mentioning also, you know, Carole Forestier. If I start with a guy who don't know about watches and just want to discover a little, if I start to explain, for example, because we got, you know, during all that years, you know, crazy discussion that the people they could just show up and they say, okay, I don't understand what is high watchmaking. If I start to show him like a tourbillon, for example, I'm lost, because I have to first try to explain him what is a regular escapement and after what is a tourbillon, and the guy falls asleep quite quickly. Mm-hmm. With Rolf Schneider at that time, you know, 30 years ago, every time I was just showing like an astrolabe on the table, and the guys say, wow, I don't know what it is, I don't know what is the function, but it looks like something really special. So that's why, you know, I mentioned that I tried to do this skeleton, you know, turning in 1 minute, because even for the guy who don't know, there is something, you know, weird, different, and hypnotic. So finally, at the end of the day, we discovered that this is like a lot of other subjects. Finally, we here to be met at one moment, when the people in the initiatic way road they walk. At one moment they come to us and they say, okay, I make my, and sometimes we do the initialization of that. So sometimes we got some people that we had some customers that they come since the right beginning, and some of them they used to buy, I mean, regular watches, I mean, regular brands, institutional brands. And one day, one of the guys discovered your work, by the way, and this gentleman started to be, I mean, today he got the biggest collection because they buy every earwork since ever. And it's funny because he said, you know, before I didn't know that, so I was okay with all the brands that we know, and he got like a fantastic collection of institutional brands. But he say it doesn't amuse me anymore. I mean, you know, it's like very flat. And here, this is something else. It makes me, you know, traveling in my head in another dimension. And he say, so I'm a little angry against you, but on the other side, I'm really happy that I went to your shop one day, because one day a long time ago with this person, you know, when Matthias Butet did the Key of Time, you know, with the watch that you can set the bad time and the good time. So the bad time, an hour is 15 minutes, and the good time, 15 minutes is an hour. And if you want to go back to the reality, there is a push button that you go to the civil time. This person we are really, you know, in intimity with the watches. He bought one of them because finally you sell the idea of that, which is cool. And but he played a game, so he went out with the watch, and after 3 days he called me and he said, I played a game with the watch, and honestly, I need that you come like an emergency because I'm lost. I say, okay, just push the button, you go back to the real time, to the reality, because he used it like, you got like, I don't know, a fiscal administration control. He pushed the button. He got to dinner with a cool lady. He pushed the button. So,
Yeah.
and finally, this is the poetry of the watchmaking in general. I mean, this is of course we don't need we need anything, but if
you look at like Ludovic Balliard with his upside down and obviously we know that the other watch he created that got stolen by somebody. Yeah, and you could see that's him, right? Same thing. So he realized back then, working corporate, similar like what I was doing for a little while, that we didn't need to tell the time, and if we did, let it be my art, let it be humorous, let it be who I am. And to me, that's independent watchmaking, man. That's just kick ass. That he rules, that guy. I wish we could get him on, but he doesn't speak good enough
Ludovic.
English.
No, Ludovic is not. He doesn't know good English.
Yeah, he did it, and that's after getting ripped off,
Yeah.
I mean,
prodigious talent, absolute amazing talent.
That's like modern day, independent. But I like how independence is like music. It can go this way, it can go that way. It could be a brand that's maybe doing 100 watches, or a guy doing 3 a year, or a series of 30, whatever it is. He doesn't have to answer to anybody, That's what's cool.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Guys, listen, I could do this all day, but I'm sure you guys have other things to do.
But that's why there's people behind the stuff.
Yeah.
only But as I mentioned, I got a friend in the south of France. He do all the mechanics for Harley Davidson since years. And when I mentioned him the other day to the phone that I will do the live with you, he said, "Oh, you have to tell Dan that I'm still a headbanger." He makes him younger, because he said
that's great.
He said that it was with the Walkman a long time ago, with the cassette, etc. And
there's a lot of metalheads in watchmaking. You would be really, really surprised. It's everywhere. I get it everywhere, and I feel the love. And that's a big part of what we do too. It's that love. Music it transforms you to another place, and things you're going through in your life, and we all go through.
Yeah, and
we're going through a lot of shit in our lives, all of us, and music. Was that escape. And like Johnny said earlier, it sucks that people can't go to concerts, because that I used to watch people at my shows in the front all the time, and when the beginning of slam dancing, when it wasn't ever in arenas before what we did. And I used to look at these young kids and say, if they didn't have this outlet to get it out, to let it all out, they'd be killing people.
Yeah,
I don't know what would happen. Because, when you're young, you go through a lot of transitions. And, they really let it out. And they don't have that now. They don't have that right now because of the pandemic. Yeah. It's horrible.
Yeah. Listen,
This is also kind of conversation. I remember one day, my oldest daughter, we were in the south of France, and she met Louis Bertignac from Téléphone, the French group from the time. And she started to speak with him and say, "Okay, you have to come to our home, because this is the birthday of my father tomorrow, and it would be really it would be a shock for him if you met him, etc." And the guy say, "Oh, if I start to go to all the birthday, I'm in a bad trap." So finally. because Eleanor is like, you know, quite powerful. Finally he came, and he was like, you know, just maybe 5 minutes just to talk, and finally he stayed the whole afternoon. And of course I was not in the mood to say, okay, do you want to jam, because we got like a big studio in this house. But a friend of mine did it, and he said, hey, you know, if you want the same guitar that you play, usually we got everything, etc. I say, well, okay, let's do a jam. And it was maybe, you know, 15 or 20 minutes just after he arrived in our home, and we start to jam with several friends, and we jam for maybe an hour and 1 hour 30 minutes. And when we went out to smoke a cigarette or to have a drink, etc., it was really like if we had a conversation, you know.
The universal language.
We debriefed the jam. The guys say, oh, you play cool, you play bad, here it was a good idea, etc. And it was fun. And I say, oh, it's a shame that I'm leaving tomorrow, so where I will come every day. It was fun, you know. So the language of music is also already something.
That's what a good jam is. That's how real bands are formed.
Yeah,
you gotta fit together when you're young, or when I was young, to trying out for a band or whatever it was. I mean, I got great stories with all my bands that I started.
And there is no rules about the recipe. You just have to fit.
You just have to fit. Yeah. It just works. All right, guys.
Yeah. Listen, I have a proposal, right? Let's catch up again in May or June when we've got the long evenings and plenty of sunlight and plenty of light, and we'll come and we'll talk more about the watches, the guitars, just because, Laurent, this has been an absolute privilege for me, an honor. And I'll tell you why I say that, Laurent, because as you know, years ago, I reached out, I looked at Dublin, and I saw this territory that, you know, you couldn't even buy a McGonagall watch in Ireland. And I just went, we're so behind the times. But when Ireland catches on to something new, suddenly it becomes a big deal. I looked at those results today from FHH that were published, and Ireland was up 611%.
Wow.
What the fuck is going on that I was not aware of? So I always looked at what you did, and I thought you were a trendsetter, a pioneer, and a guy who set the path and showed all the people how it could be done, how you can support watch brands and watchmakers, and by doing that, become part of the fabric of watchmaking and of the whole industry, and a really, really important part in the process of watchmaking. And so, listen, for me, as you know, I really respect and admire, and I'm delighted that you came along this evening. I would love to do it again. I think we had a couple of little technical issues at the start, but we'll do it again when the evenings are longer. They've got plenty of sunlight. We get a bottle of wine, and we'll do. Would you do that? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Dan, are you good with that, my man?
Absolutely, man. We'll be rolling by then.
And when the pandemic will be over, we will do
alive.
We can do several, cool party. Mm-hmm. One in the Guitar Factory, mm-hmm. in the center of France at White Custom Guitars and the Gyroc, and of course, going to the shop, go to the restaurant. I mean, we can dream that it could be really fun, even if it is not tomorrow morning. Let's hope it will be soon.
Let's hope it will be soon. Nothing would give me. There's nothing I would look forward to more than that.
Well, so, I always said that I walked off that last stage, and that that would be it. All my guitars were away, and they hang in the Hard Rock cafes and stuff. But I do want to pull it out and do exactly what you're talking about, and I've been looking for the right places to do that to kind of merge that, and bring a coolness to independent watchmaking. And if I can help in any way, I'm there, man. I'm plugged in, bro. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to say goodbye here, but Laurent, don't leave just yet. We'll say goodbye after we've said goodbye to everybody who has been with us on our record-breaking edition of In the Metal. That we've broken the 2 hours in style. But how could we possibly say to this man that enough? We couldn't, and I could have kept going for another 2 hours. But man, I think Dan has got house stuff going on, workmen waiting to get started. So you got to play us out, Dan. Go. Go on. Wow. There's a sound. Wow. So we got to plan what we're going to jam in and jam out with. And,
all 3 of us are going to infiltrate your store.
You got it, man.
We're just going to find a drummer and a bass player, watchmaker, and we're good.
But I got the place in Saint-Tropez if you like to come.
Yep.
That sounds good. Jim, Saint-Tropez, Jim, Hotel Biblios. Sounds
good to me. I'll make a special guilloche dial for one of my timepieces to present at the jam session.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Laurent, merci à tous for a wonderful evening tonight. It's been just brilliant fun. And that's what it's all about. It's about a love of what we do, a love of watchmaking, a love of music and guitars and rock and roll and fucking living life over the edge, So this has been fantastic. So to everybody who's been following us tonight for this epic episode of In the Metal, thank you so much. We will be back again next week with another edition, and we'll be all sensible again that time, but will we ever? So folks, from me anyway, and from Dan, from Laurent, thank you so much indeed, and we'll see you very soon.